Wrestling fans, Southern Honor Wrestling returns to the Action Building Friday, May 7th for SHW 27. Witness SHW's first ever Bunkhouse Brawl match as the Team of Fear takes on David Ali and Austin Towers. The real mean girl, Danny Jordan, makes her long-awaited return to action as she faces off against Catalina Perez. Owen Knight looks for payback as he takes on the outlandish Zicky Dice. Lethal Poison defend their tag team titles against the winner of Technical Excellence versus the Honor Society. Also in action, AC Mack, Ashton Starr, Ben Buchanan, and a battle between two hosses as William Huckabee and Cyrus the Destroyer finally meet one-on-one. Tickets on sale the night of the show starting at 5 p.m. Doors open at 7, bell time at 8. You don't want to miss this show. SHW, this is our wrestling.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I'm joined by my buddy Byron.
Good evening. Welcome to our show. What's up, folks?
Finally.
Yes. It's not a Tapped Out podcast without lots of technical difficulties because we only want to bring you the best sounding podcast in the world, wrestling or otherwise.
That is true. It's sometimes I wonder if we put too much focus on it, but we only want to deliver the best. Only want to deliver the best.
Yes.
Speaking of delivering some of the best, man, before we get started in some of the meat and potatoes and stuff, dude, I'm really digging this WWE's Most Wanted Treasure show they're doing on AE.
Yes. I have not gotten to see Sundays. Had all kind of crazy stuff going on. I can't wait. I finally got a day off work where I can sit down and watch. I'm looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, man. I think you'll dig it. I mean, you know, the first episode was really cool. We talked about it a little bit last week where Mick Foley went out and about. This week, though, I was more intrigued. I mean, I love Mick from a person's kind of standpoint. But, you know, Taker and Kane on this week and some of the stuff they went after, man, it was really, really cool. The urn that Mankind hit him with, the betrayal urn's what they called it. Dark name all in itself. There was a Kane outfit that they went for, and of course the one was cool. Was I joked with you a little bit about it. It was like Storage Wars. They went to a freaking storage place, and Taker's like throws the door up, and they go in there and they're literally like picking up boxes and those container boxes, not like actual cardboard boxes, but the little Tupperware looking ones is what I call them. And they're pulling stuff out, and he pulls out the freaking, his basically when he turned baby for the first time, where it had actually some color to it, the purple. That was just, I was like, that's crazy, man. It's in a storage facility, for crying out loud.
Well, I always say we got too much stuff. People got too much stuff. And they keep it in storage facilities because there's more storage facilities than there's damn Dollar Generals around here.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to see this. It's on my DVR. I have unlimited DVR as long as I watch it within a certain period of time. So.
And here's what I brought it up because what's cool about it is I'm sitting here thinking like this kind of stuff is in storage facilities or just random Joe. It's like doesn't it probably belong somewhere? Why
are they collecting it?
They're archiving it, they're putting it in everything at the facility or whatever. But recently on a podcast, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of which one it was. Triple H was asked about like, is there any idea that maybe someday there's like a WWE museum, like a physical museum, like make it maybe the Combo Hall of Fame / museum place. I mean that would be pretty nifty, I think.
Oh man, where did you put it? You put it in Connecticut or you put it in Florida, where everybody could go see it like it's part of a vacation? Put it in Orlando.
Yeah, I think it's got to be somewhere like that. I think it's got to be somewhere where there's like a lot of tourism in the sense because you'll get those fans who come in and out. If you put it in Connecticut, like not too many people plan trips to Connecticut. For other reasons. And you're not going to go the Hall of Fame. Like you would probably go once. So you kind of have to have a place that gets constant revolving traffic versus your fan base goes once and then what happens after that, you know? I think that ultimately is the challenge. But so he was asked about it, and it was funny because he was like, you know, it's funny when you're talking about, you know, if he responds like, yeah, I'd love to do it. He's like, people turn it into like, oh, hell, they're building it already. You know, they jumped the gun. But I really like the concept of, and I know we were talking about this a little bit off air before we got started, about maybe it's not a physical building they buy and put all the stuff in. That maybe it's a like it moves. It's at, you know, it's at SummerSlam, it's at WrestleMania, and then eventually, you know, maybe it's at the Rumble, blah blah blah. And what's cool about it, they can archive all this stuff, and I get the risk of what I'm about to say. I really do. But maybe they take sections of, like, you don't move the whole thing every time. So like at Rumble, there'll be pieces. At SummerSlam, there'll be different pieces. At, you know, and so forth and so on. And the reason why you do that is because then guess what it encourages? You have to go more than once.
Yeah. It's like, this is what's touring this time. You know, museums change displays. I mean, they're going to have enough stuff. You could kind of like get one of those. If one of the Smithsonian's is not as popular, just put this in its place.
Why is there a rock car? Did you see that on the first episode? There's like a racing car with the rock.
Yeah. I've seen the drag racer. That has something important to do, but we've just forgotten it. Okay.
We're old.
Well, that happens. I'm forgetting a lot of stuff these days.
Right. But anyway, I mean, like I said, my question to the listeners is, you know, and let us know, would you go? Like, would you go to if there was a physical one, say in Orlando, or would you prefer the concept of it's maybe, you know, like it's like Access. You know, when you go to Access, I mean, have you ever been to Access?
I have not been to Access.
Okay, so at Access, you know, they do have a section where it's a display of all of these belts that they've had that they've gotten back. You know, and other things. Like I went when it was here in Atlanta, they had a lot of John Cena's personal, like his cars, that they had a display there. But I'm like, yeah, but now you could put like your stuff. Like every time it would just be a revolving thing. So I like that concept personally. Plus, from a business standpoint, like I said, you can, you know, get more money.
Yeah. And that whole thing, maybe they could do it 3D. Maybe they could do it interactive. Maybe you could walk around inside this virtual Hall of Fame. Yeah,
well, see, you could do that because you could basically film it, and then you would basically get the VR Oculus or whatever it's called, and you could walk through and see everything. That would be cool. You could pay a flat, like a couple bucks or whatever, and do a virtual tour and go through. That would be cool. I agree with you, man. But you know, like you said, occasionally, if they do that, you know, like I said, I think you can blend it in because then you can do, hey, this time we're going to have Taker at doing a Q&A, so we'll have a big setup with his stuff. That's what I meant by the traveling piece of it, of the legends that can be involved or their kid or whatever, the people that it matters to the most, like they could be there while that stuff is the pick that time.
Do they still do state fairs? Maybe they could tour state fairs.
They still do county fairs. I don't know if they still do state fairs. I'm sure they do. Somebody, you know, because there's nothing like a good, you know, food on a stick.
I love food on a stick. And I love stupid games. I just don't like it.
And then there's the famous, like, you got to get like a candy apple. I'm like, who eats this crap?
Yeah, it's enough to give me like serious indigestion, even though.
Just thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go poop when this is over now.
Yeah. But, you know, let's move on from that. You know, there's not a good segue there. But let's talk about something that happened this past Saturday, and that was UFC 261 went down, and they ran a show with 15,000 people. Myron, 15,000.
That's with a K.
Yeah, and they.
Where is that building at?
They ran it in Jacksonville. They did do it, you know, like right there near the house that Khan built, right? But supposedly the rumors are that it was the talk of the locker room. Because, you know, my question, let's start out here and we're going to kind of work backwards. You know, it's kind of one of those things like, hey, is it time to get back to running live shows again? Is it time to start, you know, We'd heard rumors they're possibly going to do some tests maybe in the summer. We've heard talk of, hey, SummerSlam's going to have fans. It's going to be maybe in Texas or Arizona or somewhere like that that's got fans. And even on the quarterly call, they were looking at possibly, Vince said that, they're possibly looking at doing some stuff in the second half of the year, which comes in line with a late summer.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see having the big pay-per-views in live auditoriums. Not auditoriums. Auditoriums are giant football fields and stuff. I worry about smaller stuff. Wrestling is actually good for tourism dollars. I've looked at figures from Tampa. Tampa hotels went up to levels were better than 2019 prior to these problems we've had. That's a good number. Okay, that helps. That shows an impact. Now, spring break was there too,
right?
But WrestleMania was there. So that's a good thing. Boston was talked about for SummerSlam. They're not going to have the right regulations in place to allow it to run outside in front of a live audience. I like the idea of the big pay-per-views out there. I don't know if I like the ideas of Raws and SmackDown moving. Or if we do move Raw and SmackDown, let's just get rid of the house shows.
I think ultimately, that's because, there was a comment that I thought was telling. Now, listen, I'm not saying they're not coming back, and I'm just saying from a money standpoint and the profitabilities that's there, I would never go back to house shows, ever. No. Now, Raws, SmackDowns, etc. Yes, I would. Live events, selling tickets, people coming in, pay-per-views, blah blah blah. The only quote unquote live event that I would run, Saudi pays 50 to 55 million. Check, please. Put me on a plane, and I get it. It's not a popular decision, but it is what it is.
Well, and the thing that colors the whole thing for me is last year was the biggest year ever on revenue, and they never sold one ticket, and they never set up a merch stand.
Right. Basically post Mania on, they didn't sell any tickets.
Yeah.
So,
all the merch was bought online. And when you do that, you got to realize the amount of overhead they saved. Okay. All the drivers, all the producers, all the people that set up, getting the show to the town, getting things set up, hotels, flights. It's a lot of money. And that's a huge expense they didn't have last year.
Right. The thing is, I think what people may not look at as well is Vince. I don't want to say it was a throwaway comment because there's no such thing as a throwaway comment with Vince McMahon. I don't believe, especially on a quarterly call.
Oh, he made calculated.
He made the comment of they didn't necessarily see themselves necessarily as a touring company anymore, but more of a content provider. They've got deals with Fox. They've got deals with USA. They've got, of course, Peacock, and on and on and on. They have all, Hulu and et cetera, all these places they have content with. And I think they're going to focus more on producing content and, trying to keep it in. What would you rather do? Would you rather go out here to a house show and lose money, or would you rather keep your wrestlers in the building on Tuesday and shoot documentaries and this, that, and the other, and then put it out on, on the Peacock or the network or wherever to make make those people happy because you're providing them content that's getting views and it values yourself. So when your contract comes up due again, you hopefully get it again.
Well, and with no live exposure to the wrestlers, you don't really get to see them when they travel. It's not like an indie show where you run into them selling gimmicks at the stands. You don't really interact with them that much. Now you see them in person, you see them work in person, which is great. I love live wrestling, but people are not as going out friendly as they were.
Yeah, there will be that. And that's kind of going to lead me to what I'm going to ask you. We jokingly, we went to, was it a Raw or SmackDown house show that we went to?
That Christmas tour thing, it was wonderful.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But if they're only coming to your town, only for Raws, think about it. Instead of doing shows multiple nights a week, they're doing a Raw and they're doing a SmackDown a week where it's on the road going around. I will ask, because let's be blunt here. I'm honest. Okay, we don't break down Raw, but Raw was the drizzling shits. And 2 of the last 3 weeks, I actually thought last week's episode was pretty good. But the two out of the last 3 have been bad, in my opinion. But again, folks, by the way, that's my opinion. It's only my opinion. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because if attendance is down, well, I'm going to pass on Raw. We'll go when they come through town with the kids for just a house show. Well, now you got to tell your kids the only time you could go see a live event is only at Raw. Does it help boost the attendance for Raws and SmackDowns if you know that's it? This is all you're going to see. That or a pay-per-view, and it's really going to be expensive.
Well, I just don't understand the house show model because after, WCW, Bischoff knew that house shows didn't make money. They were losers.
Well, here's the thing. When business was hot, they were making money. But it's not in the sense of what it is. And I think there's too many options for your entertainment dollar now. So I think that's part of the issue. And now the claim would be that, but it's good for the wrestlers for practice. Like, they get reps in and their bodies. Some would argue the reverse. They're better off not taking the beating night in and night out. And if you just need reps, there's a whole performance center you can go down and work.
Yeah. And, I don't understand the impact of a crowd on a wrestler. That's never something I've done. So I don't know from a fan standpoint how important it is to be in front of a live audience for reactions and stuff. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Where are we in the future of content going forward?
Well, I clearly I've not done it, but Rob Van Dam in his Hall of Fame speech basically said doing that in front of 10, 15,000 fans is the greatest high of all time, and he would know, right? That was his comment. But it was literally like, I get it. That's what I'm saying. If you obviously, I want Raw and SmackDown stuff back to crowds. And UFC's paving the way. I jokingly was telling a friend of the show, I'm like, look, if anybody's going to pull it off, it's Vince or Dana, and Dana pulls it off first, running a full capacity crowd. So then, okay, well, is it time to run Raw and SmackDowns back at crowds? Pay-per-views, obviously, with big crowds. But like I said, I just think the business model doesn't warrant the house show anymore to begin with. So that goes away. But yes, I honestly think they're going to be back sooner than later running, live events, but it'll be televised events.
Yeah, I hope it's stuff that they try it slowly first, and they don't just get in the trucks and go. Let's do a pay-per-view or 2. Let's do something like that. When is the Backlash, WrestleMania Backlash?
Well, how about this? If you've got Thunderdome through August, let's say.
Yeah.
And you want to try a couple out, you book a couple big cities to do Raws and SmackDowns the old way, not Thunderdome, but the old way, and you see how they draw, you see what happens, and I'm talking like you do that in July to see what happens. You leave Thunderdome set up, so if it's not a good, hey, we're not drawing well or whatever, refund the tickets and just go back and go back down and run in Thunderdome.
Well, you can do that, and that'd get you prepared. SummerSlam is late August, right?
Yeah, it's in August, yeah.
Okay, so that would get you prepared to go.
Sure.
Out on the road again. You're going to go on the road for SummerSlam. Let's see how it works.
Well, let's keep it moving, man. Let's talk about somebody who's definitely going to be on the road, and that is your new Impact World Heavyweight Champion. That is one Kenny Omega, Mr. AEW Impact AAA World Champion, right?
Well, he is not the forbidden door. He is the revolving door. He has huge championships now. Impact probably is the least one, I'll be honest. He has that AAA belt. He has that AEW belt. He's had Impact's belt. Where does he stand now? Does he defend each belt at each promotion? Do you take the belt on the road? You just show the belts off?
Well, listen, Scott D'Amore said that Kenny's going to have to fulfill the obligations of the Impact champion. So they're going to be title defenses, and Kenny's going to be responsible to be there. Whew. He's not going to be able to be... I'll be blunt. He's made appearances on AEW, but he's not defending there either, which I don't... here's the thing that cracks me up. Everybody would think that I would be like, oh, he's not defending it enough. No, I think it makes it more prestigious when you don't defend it on, your television show every week.
The huge Brock Lesnar fan, and I love the
Sure.
way they broke Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar only comes out and defends his belt when it's important. So when you see Brock Lesnar, you need to tune in because that whole entire show is important.
Yep. So, but I didn't even ask you this before we moved too far along in this. I was going to ask you your thoughts on him winning against Rich Swann to begin with.
I did not get to see the match. Sunday was a no wrestling night for me. I had a lot going on.
No. I just meant, what did you like? You heard he defeated him, and
I heard it was a good match.
I
heard he. I got the news, and I was sitting there like, I knew it was going to happen, but I did not think about the possibilities of it because I've never comprehended the fact that one man would hold so many titles, especially 2 American TV titles, where you're the biggest name of the promotion. And the whole thing with Impact and AEW, it was kind of like that's really nice. But now you've got their belt. So now it's you're in full all the way. You got this guy who's going to have to show up on your shows to defend that belt. But he's also going to have to show up on the AEW shows to defend that belt. So he's the champion of multiple promotions. Is he bigger than the promotions now? But whenever he comes out, they introduce him as also the AEW champion on Impact.
Oh yeah, they have to, yeah.
So you're talking about rub. This is a big rub for Impact, even putting the belt on him. Now I'm assuming this will go down to like a 3-way dance match, and somebody else will lose and get the belt off him in that way eventually.
Thanks for leading me here, because this is exactly what I wanted to discuss about this whole thing. It literally is the where to now concept. When you have these interpromotional challenges, somebody has to lose this battle. It's AEW and Impact, and so my question becomes, okay, so Kenny beats Rich Swann, so right now AEW's one up. Does Impact? Obviously they're going to get their title back. You would think. I mean, unless whatever, because somebody has to win the promotional rivalry. And I think ultimately that's the biggest challenge of them all, is because one promotion's going to be the loser in the rivalry. If you don't do that, then are people left unsatisfied without a payoff? And I mean, ultimately at the heart of it, I think that's what, back in the day, the territory days when we were kids, promotions didn't like to do it because there's too many. Yeah, it's egos. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, and everybody wants their guy to be over. Well, everybody's guy can't be over. Hell, they couldn't even. It was a hard time struggling to have an NWA champion.
Yeah, and what you going to do? Marvel and DC crossovers again, which I've always perplexed me. I don't see how anybody gets ahead in these things. Now, if they defend the Impact title on AEW, how nuts would that be?
Right.
How nuts would it give a guy like Rich Swann or Moose to come onto that show and do the big show out there in front of the AEW audience? Because the audience for Impact is growing. It's not anywhere near I think it should be compared to quality. Now, the piped-in crowd noise has really sucked the last couple of times I've watched it. It's been too much. But, folks, it's a really good quality show. Probably the best women's division there is. Adding Rachel Ellering in place of Jazz was a good choice. I enjoy the women's wrestling on that more than I do probably any other women's division, except when like Becky and Ronda are back. It's pretty much Charlotte's division when they're not.
Right.
And Dave Meltzer also can go to hell. Dave Meltzer, if you wanted to comment on women's looks, you should have been a fashion reporter.
Right.
Okay.
So, but, and oh, by the way, you mentioned her name, so just kudos, shout outs to Rhonda announcing her pregnancy.
Yes.
Congratulations. Yeah, absolutely. Because we all know we were big fans. We were wanting her back. I'm sure it seems like we were in the minority at times, but I disagree with that we were in the minority. But let me ask you, okay, before we move on, I do want to ask you, who's taking the title off of Omega? I mean, somebody in Impact has to beat him to get that belt back.
What if somebody in AAA beats him and takes the belt? What if the Impact belt? I don't know what's going on. This is like Star freaking Trek. okay, where no man has gone before. We are on the cutting edge of wrestling, Nick.
Do you remember there was Taz versus Mike Awesome for the ECW title? It was a WWE contracted wrestler fighting a WCW contracted wrestler for the ECW championship. I was like, that's what I want to see. I want to see somebody from AAA come to AEW to wrestle for the Impact title against Kenny Omega.
Do a three-way dance.
Listen, here's my thing. I will definitively say, and I shouldn't possibly, but this is my opinion. If they do a three-way and Kenny doesn't get beat, you went the cheap way out.
Yeah.
Kenny has to be beaten for that title, for that feud to be played. Because otherwise, you let your champion lay down and take the loss, and then he's not going to do the favors in return. If they do a triple threat, I will be actually pissed if they do it and where he's not pinned.
How about this? 2 years ago, a year ago, we would not be talking about Impact Wrestling on this show. Because one, we didn't watch it. And two, nobody else watched it either. Nobody else could find it. We used to laugh that it was on a sports hunting channel where they would run last week's episode. Or they would just run 30 minutes of dead air because they forgot to do it.
Right.
They forgot to turn the episode on. We're in a new world that Impact is getting this kind of attention. And
so
every
what do we
time,
say? It's one of the best shows nobody's watching. Now, thank God more people are watching now.
Yeah.
But I wish even more were watching.
I think we're going to get to the point where Impact's probably going to be doing 500,000. Maybe not right away, but if this keeps up with AEW and they're smart and they handle this well,
I hope so.
I think they're getting 500,000. I think AEW is eventually going to be really neck and neck with Raw. Probably not SmackDown. We're in a something. We're seeing new stuff. We're seeing. I did not think that AEW would be able to consistently do 1 million plus, and they seem like they're going to be able to.
That we'll see. I think time will tell, and I do think they will. By the way,
but there's
we do have to see.
I'm worried about, Nick.
Well, yeah, there's some news came out, and it could be nothing. It's kind of the same thing we talked about. The Triller buying Fight could be nothing in the grand scheme, but we obviously one of the big things coming out this week was the NHL signed a 7-year rights deal with Turner Sports. So basically they're going to have regular season games, some Stanley Cup, playoffs, finals games, on TNT and TBS starting next year. Here's the catch, folks. The reason, they went with Wednesdays, in my belief, I could be wrong, but I believe I'm right. TNT and the NBA are synonymous with Tuesdays and Thursdays. So AEW was not going to try to take one of those nights because once basketball came, I don't care what your ratings were, you would be shoved to the side. So they go to the Wednesdays.
It's just the truth.
It is. Factual truth. NHL's big night is Wednesday. So where does the NHL and TNT fall as their night on TNT? Listen, we've heard talks of they're going to put some of it on HBO Max on their streaming service, which, by the way, I'm pumped about that. Why? It's not because I want to see hockey. That means they're going to be doing some live streaming on HBO Max.
Yes.
So that excites me a little bit.
And that means maybe they'll start doing the AEW on HBO Max.
That could be the option. But now that's a little more challenging when it comes to ratings and stuff like that. Or do they say, hey, our show's going to be on TBS? Instead, it's a national cable company or channel just like that. So do you put, or do they put the hockey on TBS?
I don't know, but my DVR is going to have a brain meltdown. It's good. It's been able so far to track the changes in shows, but what if it records hockey one night instead of AEW? Okay, what if it's, they can't find the show? What if it just melts down? I guess it's in the cloud somewhere, but that's just somebody's computer.
Right.
That's trying to find my damn wrestling because they're going to be putting hockey on in front of it. I don't even know how this is going to go. I've watched hockey. I have to be horribly impaired to watch hockey, to be honest with you.
I will tell you this. Hockey in person is awesome.
Oh, I love the Gwinnett Gladiators, or the Atlanta Gladiators now.
Yeah.
I love those games. So much fun. And it's nice and cool in there, which I know You always want it about 20 degrees cooler anywhere we go, and I totally get that. But it feels so good in that arena when they've got that ice out, and I don't care what they're doing. Give me some hot dogs and some cold beer. I'll watch anything.
So back to the point at hand, because we'll be talking hot dogs and hockey. But so back to the point here. So if hockey gets put on TNT on Wednesday, where does AEW go? Do they have to go?
Hurt them?
Oh, it's just and
this is bad.
Listen. And here's the thing: I don't want to move into I don't want them Tuesday because I don't want that to start again. I don't want it going to Thursday because I don't want it to hurt Impact, because we just talked about how we had a love and Impact. I don't want it going to Mondays and Fridays because I don't even want to start that, because it's not going to be permanent. It's going to be sporadic. I mean, but do they just move them to keep them on the same night and put them on TBS?
See, that's going to hurt. You got to have a consistent slot. People expect it. People expect you to be where you started at. And they're getting up over 1 million. They've got their slot. Moving to a Saturday occasionally like they did a while back, they weren't really on the run they are on now. I think if they do this now, it's going to hurt them.
Well, I mean, my thing is you could keep them on Wednesday. They just move them to TBS at the exact same time. I don't know. But somebody brought up to me, somebody shot me a message and like, why are you even concerned? Hockey ratings are pretty, the AEW draws the same ratings that, hockey does, or better, a little bit better. And I'm like, well, when it gets to the playoffs, that's not the case.
Yeah.
Regular season, I agree. You're totally correct. However, the full details haven't been disclosed, but people are estimating $225 million per year for 7 years. By the way, I just kind of wanted to throw this out there. That's a very similar number to what we were talking about Fox paying for SmackDown. So it ain't like this is an odd number. So it's content. And by the way, hockey only draws, like I said, 1 million, whatever. Now again, playoffs are the exceptions. But regular games are lucky if they draw 1 million. So all of that being said, I think we're kind of seeing, okay, this is about the bar for live sporting events. But the $1 million thing that I want to make sure people remember when it comes to the business side of it, it's always been said. Now, I get it. It's laxed a little bit now versus back in the 80s, especially the 90s and the 2000s. Advertising is a little bit easier of a sell during an NHL game than it is a wrestling show.
Yes.
If I love it, by the way, I'm prefacing it. But if you go out to your advertisers and you show them you can be on this product, and there you see Dustin Rhodes busted open, bleeding all over the place. I get it. It happens in hockey too, by the way. But it's a live sporting event. A lot of the advertisers, I think, would lean towards the hockey.
I mean,
and they got to get their money back.
Even the WWE gets the general in cricket, okay? They don't get AT&T. They don't get Verizon. It's just the way it is. Your major guys aren't going to put their money there. You get Snickers and Mars, M&Ms, whatever you want to call it. But that's been going on forever. They're like a title sponsor. If you're getting twice to 3 times the advertising revenue off hockey that you are off wrestling, you're going to put the wrestling where the wrestling fans go look for it.
Listen, it's not going to be twice, I don't think. But let's be flat out honest. If you're getting 25% more, they're going to take it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a substantial amount. 25% of a big number is a bigger number.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. But it's not the only thing on TV we want to talk about this week. We finally got the trailer for Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh, yeah.
I was jacked. We saw it, man. It got us all excited about it. They've officially announced May 6th, Thursday, May 6th, 9 p.m. We're going to get this whole start of the new season. 14 episodes. By the way, the Pillman episodes are the debut. It is actually going to count as 2 episodes, by the way.
But, man, 2 hours on Pillman? God almighty.
I'm not surprised. His story is very, could justify it by
his story's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to learn some stuff I didn't know, and I thought I had heard or read or listened to everything I could about Brian Pillman.
Mm-hmm. You know what I'm psyched about, dude? So Jericho's back as your narrator, who I think does an awesome job.
Yes.
But you're going to see people like Jake Roberts, John Moxley, Mick Foley, Diamond Dallas Page, JR, Cornette Bischoff. I mean, David Arquette, Rob Van Dam, Antonio Inoki's on there. I mean, literally, dude, this is name after name after name.
Inoki.
Yeah.
I've never seen Inoki do stuff like this.
No.
I'm fascinated. I can't wait to see what it's like.
So you've got the list, and I've got the list of all the stuff on there. Pillman. Okay, here's going to be a sleeper episode for you, by the way.
Okay.
The WCW New Japan Collision in Korea show. So obviously I listen to Bischoff, 83 Weeks a lot. And that's one of the episodes that I think will sneak up on people because a lot of crazy stuff went down. And that it's one of the good untold stories. Jeez, easy for me to say. Yeah. Nick Gage, I get it. Deathmatch people are going to love it. Warrior, Grizzly Smith, which is I'm sure where Jake's going to come in.
Jesus Christ, that's going to be a sordid mess.
That's going to be a hot mess. Dynamite Kid, second half of the season, the steroid trials, FMW, Luna Vachon, Plane Ride from Hell, going to be another great story. XPW, Johnny K9, and of course Chris Kanyon. That one's going to be fascinating.
Chris Kanyon's going to be good. I read the Bruiser Bedlam story on Pro Wrestling Stories. That guy was legit, hitman. He would drive from wherever up north somewhere to come down to Smoky Mountain and work, and then drive back all the way. I think he was in Canada. It's he's a mobster. He's a legitimate badass. Oh, he's dead now, but you're gonna get some really scary stories out of that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of hands down. It's arguably one of the best wrestling TV shows on TV. It's just super fascinating. I've gone back and watched episodes again. Yeah, just because they're so fascinating, in my opinion. But
man, hey, what's the thing? I mean, are we going to get to the point where we're going to start watching more wrestling content that's not in the ring?
Okay, sidebar that before we go to the Indy Talk, 100% you triggered exactly. It goes back to what we said earlier about about Peacock and about the WWE and about content. Think about. We talked about how Austin's documentary on A&E drew over 1 million people. It was competitive with AEW. It beat NXT. Listen, there's a younger fan base that's dying to know about the past, and then there's the old timers like us who want to watch and relive our youth through watching it. All that kind of crazy stuff. Yes, the answer to that question is I honestly believe that one of the things they do best is that documentary style stuff, and I think ultimately I think we do that with TV in general. Do you like biographies and stuff when it's about somebody that you're interested in?
Yeah, of course,
absolutely. And I think ultimately that's where we are, man. I mean, that's just where we are. So anyway, I can't wait for it. It'll be not this weekend, but the next one, and we don't have to do any time traveling to figure that one out. But let's move along, man, because it's the Georgia Indy Talk section. It's always fascinating stuff. Sometimes it's crazy, all the stuff that's going on. I'll let you start first. We drove up last Saturday to the KLT Arena to the Superstars Fan Fest, and I'll let you share your thoughts first.
I'll preface it with we got there late.
Yeah,
the thing started at noon, but we got a lot of stuff going on. It's hard to get up to run. We'd had to left the house at 10 o'clock. We didn't get there to 4:30. We missed some people. Okay. The main person I wanted to see, Ron Fuller, was packing and leaving when we walked in. I didn't get to see Tommy Rich. That is no fault of the vendor or the promoter of the show. Had we got there earlier, we probably would have got to see more. I enjoyed spending time with Dylan. I enjoy the weirdness of being around famous professional wrestlers, and they just act like you're a person. Not to say that Dylan's famous. Dylan's famous. Dylan's one of my favorite people on the entire earth. But Scott Steiner was next to the table, and Scott's just walking back and forth, and we're behind the table, like we're insiders. I like playing like I'm an insider sometimes, and it was cool. I'm a mark. I gotta tell you. I wanted my Ron Fuller 8x10. I ain't gonna lie. The AEW quarantine protocols had to keep Arn and Tully behind a barrier for pictures and stuff, so I did not get into that the way I wanted to. But I think the show itself was pretty cool. Now, we did not stay for the wrestling because I had my
second dose
immunization. I had my second dose, and I was feeling bad. I react badly to vaccines typically. I'm not saying anybody should think about that, but I do. And I was horribly nauseated, and we just decided to go home. Well, we missed the real big story up at Anarchy.
Apparently so.
Now, I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. I read Larry's review. I had a couple people tell me about it. I hear things. I don't repeat things I don't know. I can't really say. Apparently, there was a lot of heat. Okay, apparently there were some problems with the match. But my feeling is that they have some of the best wrestling minds in the Southeast, if not the country, in that building, and they will be fine. This won't hurt Anarchy. I think Anarchy will be just fine. It's just this was an off show. It happens. I don't understand the Hanson thing, but then again, I wasn't there.
Well, listen, I understand it. I kind of know where it's coming from, and I get it. But my only knock is, me, is I'm always a fan. I'm not a fan of guys being a babyface here and super close by they're a heel. He's so beloved in this whole area, for that matter. And how could you not love the big lovable teddy bear, right? I mean, Hold My Beer Hansen is a babyface through and through.
Oh yeah.
I think honestly, you can shades of gray this story a little bit. And I'll leave it at that. There's going to be a lot of truth, I think, to the things he says, and that's always a great heel, is when there's truth there to what he's saying. But hey, what do we always say? Test. Can we let this play out? Yeah. Yes, and it's a phenomenal opportunity for him to get it.
We're going to see Hansen's depth in this, of what he can do on the bigger stage as a performer outside the ring.
I agree, and I listen. Whether I like it that he's a baby here and a heel, that whatever, that's irrelevant. That's just a personal preference thing of mine. Yeah. Let's let it play out, see what happens and where they go with it. And yes, I do think they will recover. But listen, all reports pointed that it was a rough show for Anarchy, and it was a bad timing to have a rough show because it was one of their biggest shows of the year. Hardcore Hell.
I don't know
Shit
if you
happens.
Can kill them. I don't know if you can kill them though.
You cannot.
They are they are super strong and resilient, and one show is not going to hurt things. And they still sold it out. 325 in that building, huge effing crowd.
Of course, the problem is that means more people saw a bad show. I mean, your roughest show. So, but listen, like I said, I think they'll be fine. We'll see. Time will tell, and where they progress. Give them time to let's see. Speaking of let's see, this weekend, in my opinion, the hot show running. I could be wrong, throwing it out there, but the hot show seems to be Southern Fried's running this weekend. Look, Todd is Todd. Todd's going to book. Todd's going to do a great job. This is the big match, of course, on the card is kind of staggered out. I look at this card and go, well, this could be your main. Well, this could be your main.
Yeah.
Well, this could be your main.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a good problem when I'm looking at your card and I can pick 2 or 3 matches.
There's main event talent. I don't even know what match they're in because it's not on the poster. But they would people I would drive there to see, and I don't know what they're doing. And so I'm excited about that. Unfortunately, we're at like a peak time at work right now, and so I don't know if I'll even be able to get out of time to be an hour late. I might be 3 hours late the way work is lately. So I'm probably not going to get to go to this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to miss this because one thing people are, I don't know if they're sleeping on, but Todd Sexton and Dylan Freimer are communicating and dealing with each other on a regular basis. And that right there is huge for Georgia indie wrestling. Just the mind dump and the ideas that will be passed back and forth should have groundbreaking, revolutionary things happening. So
could be matches that I'm looking forward to. Here's the thing: is it the young studs, Griff Garrison, Austin Towers? They're going to clash. That could be your main if they put the belt on the line, right? That could be the main. Or listen, the main's probably going to be Jagged Edge, Jacob Ashworth versus Billy Buck and Todd Sexton in a street fight. That could be your main. Why? Because it's a feud. It's boiled into a street fight. When it comes to in the ring, it could be David Ali and Hawkins. Why? Because is anybody more talented than David Ali? Arguably Wrestler of the Year. Or is it Adrian Hawkins who gets more heat at frickin' Southern Pride than anybody?
Adrian Hawkins is a heat magnet, but I also think he is one of the most under-recognized and undervalued wrestlers in the state of Georgia. The guy is as solid in the ring as anybody that wrestles in the state.
And like I said, and nobody draws more heat at Southern Pride than him. Yes. Nobody. Mm-hmm. CT Keys probably defending his title against Bobby Moore, it looks like. I'm excited because it looks like the Sal Renaro, Sunny Days team might, because they're both on the poster side by side. I'm hoping that means that there's some magic there.
That's interesting.
It's intriguing to say the least. That's all I'm going to say. So, definitely check them out. Go to their page over on the book, Southern Fried fan page, and get your tickets and head out this Saturday and check them out. You won't be disappointed by that show at all. Speaking of not being disappointed, don't disappoint us. Go somewhere, anywhere and everywhere. Subscribe. Whether if you're a podcast listener on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, anywhere. That's awesome. You can also check us out on other places as well, like YouTube. You can subscribe and get the shows there. We always tell you, find us on all form of social media. We're on all of them, and we're just at Tapped Out Pod across the board. And, of course, that is at Tapped Out Pod on all social media. But patreon.com/Tapped Out Pod, that's the place to be. There's a few goodies I'm throwing on there every week now.
Oh, that has been good.
I threw up 2 this week. I threw up something even a little bit different, so the list of people over at Patreon know. And, of course, the show notes. Get the show a little bit early. I apologize for this one being a little bit late because of all the technical difficulties, easy for me to say. But make sure you're signing up and supporting the show, even if it's for $1. But, obviously with the higher levels, you get other things. Patreon.com/Tapped Out Pod. Whew. Man, I always have to have you come. Yeah.
Do it for me. Wow. Anytime we think we're not going to have as much stuff to talk about, we have a barn burner of a long show, man.
Yeah.
That's terrific. That is terrific. Oh.
Yeah, man. That's, crazy week. Hope we get it wrapped up here, heading looking into next week as well. But before we get out of here, man, I always got to check with you, man. You got anything else?
I had a revelation this morning. And there's a lot of debate in my household on this. And this date shifts from year to year. And I still have a problem with what year it actually happened. But according to Facebook, Monday was mine and Melissa's anniversary, being together 9 years, according to her. Well, the cool thing about that, I didn't phrase that. I met Nick on our second date. And that's when we started becoming friends, and this is what has led to this. And I guess it's our friendversary. By the time you hear this show, it will be our friendversary. So thank you. Happy friendversary, Nick.
Oh, that's a cool. And so Melissa is useful in some form. She's
Yes. I'm going to get killed, but she doesn't listen. So
that is true. They don't listen, and God bless them. We love them anyway. So anywho, anything else, brother?
Nah, that's all I got, man.
All right, man. Well, if that's all you got, man, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.